Good morning. How's everybody doing? Great. Well, it's a great pleasure to be here with leading anti-hunger, nutrition, and health leaders, and to be joined by so many who are watching online. 6 months ago, the Biden-Harris administration convened the first White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health in more than 50 years. At the same time, the administration published a national strategy to lay out President Biden's vision for ending hunger and reducing diet-related diseases by 2030, all while closing disparities. We were grateful to have Americans from all corners of the country attend that historic conference. Many of you have reflected on how that event ignited action to address the interrelated challenges of hunger, nutrition, and health. But as you heard me say then, it was not the end, it was just the beginning. Implementing the national strategy is a top priority, and we're keeping our foot on the gas. For example, improving food access through the summer electronic benefits transfer program was a key priority in our national strategy, and President Biden did just that, making the summer EBT program permanent and nationwide in last year's Omnibus 2023 budget agreement. This is a huge step towards reducing hunger among children and ensuring that kids have nutritious meal options even when school is out. It's also the first new nationwide child nutrition program to be permanently authorized in almost 5 decades. In addition, we're taking numerous administrative actions to reduce hunger and improve nutrition and health, including releasing several proposed rules to support nutritious meals for students. We're removing barriers to using WIC online and updating the healthy claim on packaged foods. Today, the Food and Drug Administration is issuing a proposed rule that will help reduce sodium in our food supply. Under the proposal, salt substitutes would be allowed in many foods where salt is an ingredient, like canned vegetables and cheeses. Many food manufacturers are already using salt substitutes to lower their sodium content without changing a food's taste or texture. The FDA is also releasing today draft guidance on the recommended statements that food companies place on the front of their products to help consumers understand better how a food fits into healthy eating. The President's budget for fiscal 2024 further builds on this progress. It proposes investments to expand school meals to 9 million more children, to broaden and enhance access to Medicare and Medicaid coverage of nutrition and obesity counseling, to connect more people to parks, and bolster nutrition research at the National Institutes of Health. These are just a few of the steps that we've taken, but we cannot do this work alone. At the White House conference, we asked you, private companies, nonprofits, state and local governments, community leaders, non-governmental organizations, philanthropies, healthcare providers, workers, and everyone in between to come together to end hunger and reduce diet-related diseases by 2030. And many of you delivered. More than 60 public and private organizations made generous, impactful commitments totaling more than $8 billion. Many of those in the audience today represent these organizations. Thank you so much for being leaders in your sectors. Since September, organizations that made commitments have reported serving over 9.4 million meals, raised nearly $40 million to support their commitments, and helped underserved communities access healthy food. For example, the grocery chain Meijer enabled over 740,000 SNAP beneficiaries to purchase fruits and vegetables at a 10% discount. And the National Grocers Association is helping grocers, particularly smaller independent stores, to sell food to SNAP participants online. But hunger and diet-related diseases continue, as we all know, to affect far too many Americans. We need to keep up the momentum. So today, as March is National Nutrition Month, we are announcing the White House Challenge to end hunger and build healthy communities. Through this challenge, we're rallying a second round of commitments that will help us achieve our urgent goals. For the challenge, we've outlined priority actions that we're encouraging organizations and communities to take. We're seeking big, bold actions that will help eliminate disparities, test new models, scale up evidence-based strategies, and go beyond what the federal government can do on its own. Check out www.whitehouse.gov/Hunger Health Conference to learn more. Local elected officials, nonprofits, foundations, and private companies have already responded to this new challenge by making commitments to improve access to nutritious food, to promote healthy choices, and increase physical activity. They're showing us that this work not only can be good for individuals and communities, but can be good for a company's bottom line. Today, we also announced the nominees for the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. Jose Andres, star chef and founder of World Central Kitchen, and Elena Deladon, star basketball player with my hometown Washington Mystics, are the co-chairs of this council. Both are MVPs on the issues of hunger and health. We're excited to work with them and the rest of the council to champion this White House challenge. We're eager to start this next chapter by hearing today about the inspiring steps that individuals and organizations are already taking. I hope today's stories leave you even more inspired to participate in this challenge. It's going to take all of us, from all sectors, all communities, and all political parties, to transform our food and health systems. We're counting on you. And with that, now we'll hear some remarks from Senator Debbie Stabenow. And then Secretary Javier Becerra will moderate a panel on action that's being catalyzed in communities across our country. Thank you all very much.
Hi. Thanks to all of you for taking part in the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health. And thanks especially to Ambassador Rice, Secretary Vilsack, and Secretary Becerra for your wonderful leadership. It's exciting to have such a diverse coalition building on our work from the conference in September. We all have a shared goal, ending hunger in this country and increasing healthy eating and physical activity by 2030. And we have a lot of work to do. More than 33 million Americans in big cities and small towns can't afford enough food to eat. And 1 in 8 households with children can't adequately feed their families. This is completely unacceptable. No parent should have to send their child to bed hungry in America. This is a moral issue in our great country, as well as a health issue and an economic issue. We also know that government can't solve this problem on our own. We need the private sector. We need nonprofits, health and nutrition advocates, and faith leaders to have a seat at the table. That's why events like today's conference are so very important, so that we can keep building momentum and create solutions together. You can count on me to continue to be a champion for the nutrition programs that serve as a lifeline to millions of people across our country. These programs help people afford the healthy diet that helps them stay active and reduces the risk of diseases like diabetes, heart disease, stroke, cancer. About 41 million people use SNAP to buy groceries and put food on their tables. And we know the majority of them are children seniors, people with disabilities, and our veterans. With an average of just $6.10 a day, and let me say that again, with an average of just $6.10 a day, less than you may have paid for your coffee this morning. SNAP reduces food insecurity by as much as 30%. But harmful policies proposed by some in Congress threaten to cut access to food through SNAP for millions of Americans. We can't allow this to happen. It's my priority to protect and to preserve SNAP in the 2023 Farm Bill. And your partnership will be essential. Only with a broad, bipartisan, and diverse coalition of support can we pass a farm bill that helps end hunger and increases healthy eating. Thank you for all of the work that you have done and are doing. Let's keep the momentum going.
Good morning, everyone. We want to thank you for being here. Ambassador Rice, thank you for this leadership. And on behalf of the President of the United States, I think we say to each and every one of you, thank you. We want to see more. And to our panelists, who I will soon ask some questions to, I think what we want to hear from you is mostly at the local level, where the rubber meets the road. What does it look like, and what do you need to see? Because for us at the Department of Health and Human Services, nutrition is what it means to be healthy. And for us, food is medicine. And so we want to get to that point where we're talking about health at the beginning stages, not at the end. Or as we like to say, we're dealing with the wellness care system, not an illness care system. And so to really, truly have a system where wellness is at the forefront, you're talking about doing it at the very beginning. Or as Frederick Douglass said, 170 years ago? Easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Or as my mom said it in fewer words, mejor prevenir que remediar, better to prevent than to remediate. And so here we are talking about how we deal with hunger so we get to nutrition and health. And I am thrilled that we have some panelists who will give us information on what they're doing on the ground locally. Let me introduce them to you. And Mayor Giles is the first one who's here. So let me first introduce Mayor Giles, who's to my immediate left. John Giles is the mayor of Mesa, Arizona. He has been active on this front at the local level. Next to him is Robert White, a veteran, and we thank you, Mr. White, for your service to our country. He is also a board member of Feeding Southwest Virginia. He is also someone who has experienced food insecurity directly. And next to him is Lisa Ratliff, who is the CEO of Kaboom, and she can tell us about what they are doing on the ground now and how she's already made commitments to be part of this effort, this challenge that the president has set before us. So let's begin with this. First, tell us, what got you into this space? Why did you decide that nutrition, health, especially for young people, was so important? Mayor, why don't you start us off?
Well, thank you. To me, this is one of my takeaways from the pandemic. I mean, I think we all, prior to the pandemic, I was aware of food insecurity, and I was active in supporting our food banks and food and nutrition programs in schools. But I had a tremendous aha moment in March of 2020 when we try to remember where we were as a country back then. We were deathly afraid to leave our homes, particularly seniors and seniors with underlying health conditions. That was the context that I was in, and I went to a food distribution event, and wrapped around the building, standing in line, were seniors who obviously had underlying health conditions. It was horrifying. And following that, our city was a large city, so we received a pretty big endowment from the federal government, and we were tasked with how do we best use this money. We did a needs assessment, and food insecurity was at the top of the list. And I come from a fairly affluent community, and it was just extremely eye-opening to me as our city then became a food bank, And our convention center became a food warehouse, and on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, we were having 1,400 cars in that parking lot getting 50 pounds of food put into their trunk. And the people that were driving through those lines looked identical to me and my family. It was a real aha moment for me to realize how we have grossly underestimated the significance of this issue. And so I now have the zeal of a convert on this topic, and so much appreciate. This is not a food problem. Our country it has an embarrassment of riches when it comes to food. This is a leadership issue. So thank you so much to the administration for convening us on this. The people in my calling as mayors have a critical role to play. So I'm happy to be here on behalf of the Mayor's Alliance to End Childhood Hunger, calling for my fellow mayors to convene in their cities task forces to address this issue on the local level. Thank you.
That deserves an amen, I think. Robert, tell us what got you into this game.
What got me into this game is that I've been hungry myself. I've been homeless, and when I was homeless, sleeping in my car, I needed food. And I found out something about this country. I found out that anybody will feed you. They may not give you money, but you can always find a meal somewhere. And what I found out that I needed most during those times, I needed a hot meal. Food banks are great, but if I'm homeless, where am I going to cook the food? So having a place to go and actually sit down with the family, you don't know the people, but with the family that, you know, you're all hungry and you're able to go in and get a hot meal for that. And then at one point I became, I worked for a veterans shelter. We fed not only just veterans, but just people in general that was hungry. I heard something the other day, an old song from Billy Preston. He said, "I told you that I'm a soldier in the war on poverty." So that's what I try to do today.
Amen. Thank you, Robert. Lisa, tell us a little bit about Kaboom and why this is so important to you.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't ask me what got me into this, because we'd be here for all day. You know, I want to go to what you opened with, Secretary Becerra. We got to start at the beginning. And for all of us, our story starts in childhood. And at Kaboom, we are a nonprofit. We've worked nationally over the last 27 years to make sure that kids are getting outside and playing and having the infrastructure that they need. The problem is that in our schools and in our communities of color, there's not the physical infrastructure necessary for kids to get the physical benefits of play. And so we are focused on bringing communities together and identifying the totality of the issue and bringing partners together to solve it. We do this because it's not just nutrition and hunger, it's also the physical activity that creates a healthy human being. And so our work is really focused on a child, but also working in partnership with others, with mayors and others, to think about what does the ecosystem need to look like for a young person and a family to be able to be healthy and thrive.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Thank you for that. So, Mayor, you did a great job of preaching. What's your advice to other local leaders like you to get involved with folks like Robert and Lisa and to make a difference?
Well, I think you hit it on the head, Mr. Secretary. This is not something that local government can solve. This is not something that the federal government can solve. This is something that we all have to be engaged in for it to be effective. That's one of the lessons we all know. All politics is local. Guess what? Everything is local. And you would solve any problem and try to do it not locally. So the special power that people like me have is the power to convene. And so I need to preach to my brothers and sisters that have callings at the local level and local government to invite the nonprofits
Yes.
and the faith community and the federal government and to come to Washington and lobby for the farm bill, which is not a farm bill, it's a food insecurity bill, right? And to rally the resources and to be the quarterbacks. In and of myself, I can't do much, but most people don't say no when the mayor invites them to a meeting.
Yes.
And the answer in my community is going to be slightly different than it is in every other city, because I know who the usual suspects are. When I need to solve a problem, I got a speed dial of 3 or 4 people that get it done. Those are the people, those are the resources and the assets I need to tap into at my city, and that needs to be duplicated across the country.
Robert and Lisa, let me ask a question. Do you have that kind of access and communication with your local leaders, mayors, county supervisors?
I can go. So we're national. We work across the country. Yes and no. We launched an initiative a year and a half ago called 25 and 5, and it's basically looking at how do we end place-based inequity in 25 places, 25 systems over the next 5 years by partnering with leaders like mayors. And you're right, every place is different. Every place has their own context, has their own challenges, has a different relationship with the community. For us, yes, we're solving a problem around equitable access to great places to play, but that problem comes underneath the mayor's priorities. Yeah. And so working with mayors is paramount for us so that we can understand what's going on in your city, what are the things that you are focused on, how is that laddering up to a state level, because you're absolutely right. Like, we've inherited a very complex problem, and it's going to require collaboration and partnership. And for us, that partnership with the mayor and the city and the school superintendent and the leaders who are making broader decisions around the health and wellness of their kids and families is critical for us to understand and critical for us to support.
Thank you. Robert, your experience with local elected and appointed officials.
We have a great collaboration with our city council and city partners. And they've been very instrumental in allowing us to do what it is that we do. Also, we have a partnership with a food store that I think is a great partnership, because for every $1 that is donated to them, they actually are able to produce 10 meals. So you don't think about that. I think about it when I'm in that store and they have a food box there, and they say, hey, for $1, $10 actually for that food box, but it's 10 meals. And so we have great collaboration. We have also, that organization was instrumental in helping us get into one of the buildings that we're in, and they actually funded a lot of that program. So we have great collaboration with the city and our private partners as well. Also, I want to add that we need money. Yeah, don't forget the money. And in addition to money, another thing that we need, and I think my panelists will agree, is volunteers. So, I mean, sometimes on a Sunday after church, volunteer at a food bank or whatever. And I think, tell you another great thing for the youth is to take them on, into those food banks, into those veterans shelters, so they can see how the other half live, and also so they can be encouraged not to want to go down that path.
So let me ask this question foremost of Lisa, but please feel free to answer if you wish as well on this, because you now mentioned a few times equity. And I want to get into this because, Mayor Giles, you said something really interesting. When you saw those food lines, they looked just like you. And it shows how that issue of hunger, it is everywhere. But I think we also know from the data and from our own site that it hits hardest those communities that are lower income and oftentimes are minority communities. And so, Lisa, can you give us a sense, how do you handle this issue of equity? You mentioned playground space. To you, what does it mean to have equity?
Yeah, so it's a complicated question. Like, we're all becoming very familiar with the data, and the data is telling us exactly what's going on here. That there has been historical disinvestment that has, yes, affected everybody, but mostly affected communities of color. And so for us, we've been working for 27 years and doing this extraordinary work where we're bringing community together to design and then build their playgrounds, but we were doing it one at a time. And taking a step back and looking more holistically at what's really going on here, what is the data telling us, shows us that there are schools, there are parks, there are places in communities that don't have the resources that they need, and they are predominantly communities of color. And so we need to make sure that we start kind of leveling things out to address this broken part of our system. And so for us, the center of equity is really understanding the data to tell us, here's the roadmap for the work. The other side of it is partnership. I can't talk about equity without talking about partnership, because we're talking about human beings that are living in communities and are ultimately our partners and our shared responsibility. And so the kind of participation and the engagement with people who are living in communities that have been disinvested in, that do not have access to the things that they need to thrive, is really important when you're addressing equity. So, at Kaboom, we know we have a solvable problem. We know that the data will tell us exactly where we need to build, exactly where there's overcrowding or there's spaces that don't exist. We've got all of that information. And the data tells us it's inequitable. It is primarily in communities of color. It's a matter of, I just want to build on what you were saying about partnership. It's a matter of coming together in action in a different kind of way, using that data that tells us where the inequity is as our roadmap for the work in a collaborative partnership kind of way.
I want to give you.
Can I add to that, Mr.
Absolutely,
Secretary?
please.
Because we know who the disconnected populations are in our community. The reason I had elderly, sick people wrapped around a building feet apart from each other is because the social safety net for them had a big hole in it. They were not connected through a church group or a family or neighborhood or some sort of social agency that had them on their list. These were the forgotten populations that were entirely on their own. And so we have to be proactive in identifying adopt-a-grandparent programs or school, identifying, empowering teachers to know who the students are that are going home that weekend that won't eat, and making sure we get a backpack on them with food in it. So you got to be very proactive. We know that we've got a safety net, but it's got huge holes in it. And the problem is we know where the holes are, but unless we're proactively out there identifying and aggressively, serving people, we're going to have this problem persist.
Yeah. Robert, comment?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on that a little bit, because when we send those kids home on the weekend with a backpack, food, that food is not just for those kids. Everybody in the house is hungry, is going to eat out of that backpack, so we need to make sure that we're cramming enough food in there. The other thing is education. Now, I've probably been a diabetic for easily 30 years, and it was because of the diet. It was because, at one point I was a police officer, so it's always eat and run, eat and run. So I was used to eating on the run. I don't like vegetables. My wife shoves vegetables down my throat, and she'll ask me after I clean my plate, she'll ask me.
We got some work to do with you, Robert.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Exactly. Because of education. And I'm talking about education, getting into the schools. And even if we get into the schools and educate the kids do what? They go home and they educate the parents. So, are we going to eat after this? 'Cause I'm hungry now. I'm having food insecurity now.
I love your honesty. I love your honesty, because that's the way we're going to tackle this. If somebody is straight up with you, if you've got diabetes and you don't like vegetables, we got work to do. But you're honest, and that's what counts.
Well, diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol.
Yeah. So that whole combination. Okay, we're pretty much running out of time. So now I'm going to ask you to give us that one last bit of advice that you think folks here, folks watching, can really take with them and say, okay, now I know how I can do this a little bit better. One piece of advice. Mayor, let's start with you.
Well, this is a little bit of a depressing conversation, isn't it? I mean, but
Actually, no, we're going to get Robert to eat vegetables. This is good. This is good.
Well, I want to leave on a high note. On Thursday of next week, I'm going to go to celebrate with a wonderful organization in my city called Arizona Brain Food. This is a group of moms that came together a few years ago to be exactly the organization I was describing earlier, to empower teachers with backpacks for food for kids who are going to go home to no food that weekend. This Thursday, we're going to pack our 1 millionth backpack.
Wow.
So
Great.
I share that just so that you know, yes, this is a daunting task. This is, this is a mission from God that we're all on, but we can do this. And the way we do it is by empowering the wonderful people in our community that are on a mission, a calling to address this issue.
Yes. Robert.
My advice would be get involved. It actually does take a village. So each one can reach one, each one can teach one. So when I come outside of myself and I look at the person that may not have resources or whatever, also I want to say don't ever give money on the side of the road with someone with a sign. Give them a card and let them know where they can go get a meal.
Good for you.
Each one teach one, each one reach one.
Amen. Amen. Lisa.
So I'll leave really high because I'll say that we are doing this. And it's really exciting to be in a space like this at the White House where there are tangible and aggressive commitments being made. That's the only way we're going to be able to accomplish what we need to, is to be bold. I would say my piece of advice is know your why. For Kaboom is we want happy, healthy kids and we want vibrant communities. And that kind of expands outside of play spaces. And so that also expands the universe of people that we're working with. So if we want happy, healthy kids and vibrant communities, now we're talking about making sure that those play spaces have a community garden in it, making sure those play spaces have an outdoor classroom. Having that as our center point versus, we build playgrounds, kind of what is the result we're looking to seek, is helping us to build the kind of partnerships that are going to allow us to align with other efforts to go further faster. So that kind of big on be bold and know why, like at the end of the day, what are you trying to achieve? Because there's a community of people out there that will be alongside you to do the work.
Amen. Lisa Ratliff, Robert White, Mayor John Giles, thank you for meeting the challenge. Thank you for being with us today.
We're joined by four distinguished individuals. I'm going to do a real brief introduction of the four, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what our administration's been up to. Congressman McGovern, it's good to see you, and we'll tell you that I'm going to report directly to you so that you know that we're following up on the conference. Rachel Roller is the CEO of the Doman Group. Did I get that right?
Doman Company Foundation.
Yes, the company foundation. Certainly interested and involved in these issues of nutrition and very much committed to this effort. Ambassador Earthen Cousins, no small measure, this is a woman who's dedicated her life to nutrition and food and issues involving nutrition worldwide. World Food Program at one point, but now has put together an investment fund that's taking a look at ways in which innovation can spur better nutrition. Marlene, a refugee who understands and appreciates the challenges that refugees have in terms of accessing food, and she's been working in her community to make sure that there is access. And Dante Rose, working in the Philly area with a grocery store and making sure that there's access to folks who historically have not had access to nutritious food. So it's a really great panel to talk about a variety of issues. We have actually been quite active at USDA in terms of nutrition. In addition to doing some rather historic work on SNAP to improve the baseline, the Thrifty Food Plan, first time in 45 years we've seen a significant increase. We've also focused on the WIC program, the Women and Children program, not only providing additional resources, but trying to modernize this program to make it easier for folks to access it. With online shopping and online ordering, rebranding it as a public health initiative, looking at ways in which we could expand with partnerships, access to this important program. The reality is we still have too few people who qualify for this program participating. We've seen an increase. When we met in the conference, it was around 50% of eligibles. Today, Congressman, it's 60%, so we're making progress. Real excited about the summer EBT program that will institute in 2024, but we are looking at ways in which we're using resources in 2023 to provide a summer EBT program, and additionally focusing on non-congregate meal sites in remote and rural areas. Very excited about that opportunity. Really excited about what we announced yesterday in terms of the school nutrition program, lowering the threshold for qualification under the community eligibility requirements so that we can perhaps accelerate what's happening across states around the country, where folks are understanding and appreciating the important role of nutrition, having access to universal free meals for our kids at schools. A lot of great results. So the administration's been, the president's direction has been very, very aggressive in this area. We intend to continue to do that. We've made a budget proposal that would also provide additional resources to encourage more universal free meals. We think it could expand community eligibility participation by 9 million children across 20,000 schools across the country. So this is a lot of work that we're doing that we're really proud of. But we recognize and appreciate we can't do it alone. No matter how good the government programs can be, we really do need the private sector. We need partners involved in this. So what I'm going to start with you, Rachel, I'm going to start with you and just ask you very simply, what brings you to this? Why are you motivated? Tell us a little bit about what the foundation's doing in this space.
Well, first, I'd like to share my deep appreciation to you, Secretary, and the Biden administration for prioritizing these critical issues, and thank you so much for having me today. The Doman Company Foundation, our vision is life without diet-related disease, and we pursue that in two very important ways, making access to healthy food ubiquitous across the country, as well as raising awareness on the importance food plays in your optimal health. The Doman Company was founded 165 years ago with a mission to provide increased access to healthy living and to make it easy and accessible. But the unfortunate reality in our country is that that is not the case for millions of Americans who are battling with diet-related disease. Our nation is sick, and one of the big causes, unfortunately, is the standard American processed diet. So the company made its first very bold commitment in 2018 upon that realization and exited the pharmaceutical industry and took the profits from the divestiture of the company and invested them into the foundation that exists today, the foundation that pursues our mission of eliminating diet-related disease. And we are so thrilled to be joining you today to share some news about some commitments that we're making today, as well as shine light on the commitments that we made back in September during the White House conference.
Well, why don't you just share us briefly?
Come on.
Suspense here.
Well, okay, so first let me provide a little context to our previous commitment. Back in September, we made two bold commitments to the White House. One was the creation and launch of a new charitable organization called Food for Health that provides both fresh, nutritious, and delicious foods, as well as health and wellness support. Food for Health provides two programs in the market today. One is a medically tailored meal program that is targeted to vulnerable populations. The other is the Food Benefit Company, which essentially is a food benefit that employers can invest in their employees and offer healthy, nutritious meals at their workplace, as well as support the lives of the employees and their families. Since launching those two programs, we have seen phenomenal results, clinical results, in preventing and reversing diet-related disease. We also committed a $10 million investment in a public awareness campaign that's currently in its planning phase. What I'm very excited to share today is that we are making a third commitment to the White House Challenge through the new Doman Impact Investment Fund. The fund will invest $60 million in for-profit social enterprises with proven food solutions that are looking to scale their solutions and drive even more systemic change and impact. And thank you. And what I'm very excited to share is that we are looking intentionally at a lower return on investment with these capital investments, with an expectation that our investments will prove a social return on investment, which is our benchmark. The funds that will be generated through our investments will fuel the charity work that we do, our grant making, as well as our public awareness strategies. So we're thrilled that this self-sustaining investment in capital will further strengthen our food and nutrition ecosystem across the nation and also help us accelerate our impact at the foundation.
Great. Ambassador Cousin, you also are engaged in a similar venture. Tell us a little bit about that and what brings you here today.
Well, let me join Rachel in thanking you, Mr. Secretary, for allowing me to participate on this panel today, and thanking my friend Susan Rice and the White House team here for convening us for the second time on this very, very important issue. Okay. People out here who know me know that if you Google Earthring Cousin, it says a woman who believes we can end hunger and malnutrition in the world. And that's not hype. It's real. This is what I've spent my life doing. And I had the privilege of serving, as you noted, as a U.S. ambassador during the Obama administration for food and agriculture in Rome, and then as the executive director of the United Nations World Food Program. I serve as a senior advisor for Jose Andres. But
Which we all have done.
which we all have done. But here's the reality, is that all of those positions have given me the experience to know that, yes, we need our social safety net programs, but we need to ensure that nutritious food is available and affordable for all. And when I started the Food Systems for the Future, my original goal was we were going to do this work globally, and because there are lots of organizations working here in the United States. But I had any number of people come to me and say, you need to take care of home too. And so we have a team working here in the United States to support creating the enabling environment that will ensure that businesses that can change the access to affordable, nutritious food, those businesses are not coming online just for the benefit of the affluent. Because we see new ag tech businesses, new food tech businesses coming online every day, alternative protein businesses. But too often the products that they market are not available to those 117 million Americans suffering from diet-related disease. And I am one of those folks who say food as medicine is good. Giving medically tailored meals, yes. But let's make food affordable and available before the onset of disease. I never met a mother who wanted to stand in line for food. She wants to go to the grocery store with the limited amount of capital that she has in her pocket and buy the foods that are necessary for her to feed her children a nutritious meal. But that can't happen in so many households. And the reason we have 117 million people who are suffering from diet-related disease is because what is affordable is high calorie, low nutrition density. And as a result, we have children now. We have an explosion of obesity in our children, leading to an increase in hypertension in teenagers in the United States of America. And so as part of the first conference, created the Food, Nutrition, and Health Investors Coalition, with 33 investors coming together, and with not just asset managers and owners, but corporations as well, coming together to say they would commit $2.5 billion, that was our original commitment, to catalyze in investments that can begin to change the face of food access, of nutritious food access in America. So I'm here today to say that same coalition, what we're committing to is the nutrition metrics, so that we're not just talking about what impact we're making, but we're measuring affordability and availability, starting at a baseline in the various communities where we will work, and then looking over time, and we have a 3-year target for the first baseline measurement, for the first interim measurement of making food more available and affordable. And today, in addition, we are committing that we will raise another $2.5 million to get us to $2.5 billion to get us to $5 billion by the end of the year from 50 different asset managers, owners, and corporations. When I met Rachel on our first call, she said, "We need to be a part of your coalition." I said, "Come on, girl." And that's what we need, are those who are out there. We have Bayer, their LEAPS organization, who put up $500 million. They say that they're going to catalyze. So how many of you have seen the small vegetables, the snack vegetables now, in Trader Joe's? Those are Bayer innovation seeds. And they're looking at more of those kinds of investments to make snacking healthier. And we need companies that say we're going to make it healthier, but we're also going to make it affordable. And that's how we get to food is health. And that's why I'm here today.
All right, very good. Marmar, part of these conferences is to make sure that we understand and appreciate it from the perspective of those who have lived the experience. And certainly you have, and you are currently dealing with a lot of folks coming to this country who are challenged in terms of both food and nutrition security. Tell us a little bit about your work at the Hunger Task Force and how you're leveraging partnerships and why you're here today.
It's my first time here, not like them. So my name is Marmalade, and I work for Wisconsin Anti-Hunger Leader in the Hunger Task Force in Wisconsin. And I work with the people from all over, so refugee or immigrants that come in. So I'll help the people to apply for food share, healthcare, childcare, and then talk about they need a WIC or they need that with after school program that where they could get a snack and a healthy meal for their children. So I work with other partners in my community, and also the food pantry is that culturally appropriate, which is right now is Ramadan. So we had to have at the food pantry that only serve halal meal, not to everything else like regular people could get it. So that's what my come in to help out the family. Of course, we serve a lot of Afghan, Burmese, and the Rohingya, and the some of Ukrainian family that I work with in Hunger Task Force. My team, we have 14 people. We speak about 20 dialects out of our 14 people. We manage, and then also, of course, helping out each other. And then that's what we do. And also, we want to make sure that all the family that come in from overseas, they're going to start their life as new at the beginning, and they have to leave everything behind. So as me personally went through, I come here as with my mother, a single mother, and then me, just the two of us, and then seeing struggle for food and eating healthy meal for my mother to try to pay rent. So, and I understand that right now I'm helping, working in Hunger Task Force with these refugee families. So I've been there. And I struggle, and still struggle, and everybody. And then after COVID, everyone is still struggling. So that's why my passion is, and that's what I work in helping people, and trying to make sure that they got the right food and nutrition, and then healthy food for the family.
Well, we appreciate you being here. Thank you. Dante, it's one thing to talk about the fact that we need healthier choices and that they need to be affordable, but they also actually physically have to be available. People have to know where to get them. And I think you're trying to address that issue in Philadelphia. Tell us a little bit about your work and why you're here today.
Okay, so my name is Dante Rose. I was like a project coordinator for a grocery store chain called Grocery Outlet Bargain Market. It's a California-based company. It offers 40 to 70% savings on low plug. So I was going around, I was building these stores in the the Pennsylvania area, and I saw on the schedule that they were putting one in the Sharswood area. So Sharswood is a neighborhood inside of Philadelphia. It's like 52% poverty rate. You talk about places that have disinvestment. This is a place that hasn't had a grocery store since the Martin Luther King riots, right?
Wow.
60 years, right, a food desert. And not only is it that, this is where my whole family is from. My mom is from one of the blocks down there. My grandmom grew up there. All of her brothers and sisters, I was there as a kid. Like, I know this area. But I knew that it also has Temple University right there. The kids are starting to move in, and it's changing. It also is like not too far from the art district. So there's people who might have only targeted one part of the neighborhood. So I wanted to get in. So I actually purchased. They work as like franchise expansions. So I actually purchased the one that they were putting in Sharswood, and I am the full owner and operator of Sharswood Grocery Outlet.
So let me turn back to you, Rachel, and actually to you as well, Ambassador. Talk a little bit more about the role that foundations, investors are going to play in this space, and how you make the case to someone who may want to get involved but is a little bit reluctant, not quite sure why this would be important. Why should we put resources behind this? It may be obvious to the folks here, but I don't know that it's quite as obvious to folks outside of this room. Explain a little bit about how we sell this to the rest of the country.
We sell this by, first of all, saying that you can have a financial return and make a nutrition impact. And those two are not mutually exclusive, and we need to change the narrative about the ability and the opportunity to make money in communities that have been historically redlined. We have too many food deserts that are not just urban areas, rural areas, Mr. Secretary, as you know, where there are no local grocery stores. And as a result, what is available, there's an opportunity to build different kinds of stores that sell produce and a full basket at a price that the consumer can afford, but that can also provide the return that is necessary for the investor. We need to look for those types of opportunities for investment that can make a difference. We need to ensure that when we are talking to asset managers and owners, that we can identify those entrepreneurs who can scale businesses and deliver that, as I said, that financial return and that nutrition impact. Money follows success. And the more opportunities we have to determine and deliver that success, the more capital will flow into this area.
Rachel.
If I could add to that, first of all, kudos to you, Dante, and all of the social entrepreneurs that are on the front lines right now in addressing food insecurity and nutrition insecurity. You're a perfect example of the types of organizations that need further investment. You know, from our perspective at the Doman Company Foundation, our bottom line is social impact. So the number of lives that are positively impacted is how we measure our success. But really, every business in the United States has a stake in this challenge. It is affecting everyone's bottom line. And the investor community could play such an incredible role in accelerating good work like the work that Dante's leading and others, if they look at this issue both from a capital return on investment as well as a social return on investment. And I would encourage the investment community and the business community to think about ways that they can contribute to this movement that is so desperately needed. This is a massive epidemic that we're facing as a country, and we need all sectors engaged in order to ensure that we're really advancing this movement and sustaining a healthy nation.
Marmar, let's talk a little bit about the reality of your life. If somebody comes to you and is seeking help but is a little bit distrustful, a little bit uncertain about how do I get involved, and I'm a little bit nervous about if I tell the government who I am and what I'm doing. Tell us a little bit about how you relate, how you reduce that concern and guide people through the various systems that they have to get through in order to get help.
Every day. So as I say, in our office, we have 14 members, and then they will be coming in because it's called trust and community. So they see me before, and they will come back and say, I do not want to speak to nobody else but Marmar, because I only wanted. It could take me 1 hour, they will wait. So even though my colleagues are trying to help the client, the family, they want to say no. Because the first thing, what we built the trust each other. And then, so when they need help, and they would tell me A to Z, or they needed help to the family problem, to children, for the husband, everything. Then I was trying to calm them down, and then let's talk about what they really need. And then point it to the right other organization that we're working with, and then trying to point it to everything that they need as a newcomer, as a refugee family. So that would be our challenge every day, that they will ask for specifically for us, for me especially, and then speak to them. So they feel they're safe. Even though they come from a war-torn country, they don't feel safe. When they know someone and it could help them understanding all these paperwork, just a piece of paper, I had to read it. It just said that your food shares continue. They were so happy. But they want someone to tell them everything's okay. So the trust is first thing.
Very good. Dante, let's talk a little bit about the challenges that you have now that you have this franchise. What are the major challenges that you're facing? What are the challenges that you think the folks in this room need to know about?
Employees. No.
No. I'm serious. You're talking to some pretty important people here, right? So tell them.
I do think most of my challenges just were in the sense of I hadn't taken on anything like this. Like I have a full-scale grocery store, so I have 30 employees. I have 20-something orders due every single day. So I think those types of things were the things that were my biggest challenges as far as like the marketing and things of that nature. It took off. It was a food desert. There is no competition. People are able to walk there. Like I said, it's a diverse neighborhood. There's people in working class. There's low-income apartments across the street. There's college off-campus students. So I have a diverse clientele. As far as like shrink and things of that nature, I've kind of been able to get away with, not getting hit too hard just because people know me. Like, people know I have a huge family. Everybody knows my family. So it's like a thing of like, no, Dante owned the store, So I haven't had too many issues outside of employees. But, and even with that.
Employees, is getting employees, keeping them?
So I've hired over 100 people. I can stay at 30, so I've gotten rid of a lot of people. But I've done all of my hiring local. I've done hiring from people from that neighborhood who haven't had jobs. I've done second chance hiring. I've done young people, older people. So just a variety of different people who may have struggled to get jobs. So some people might not have worked in a while or don't know how to work. So, I still have to run my business, but outside of that, I've gotten better. Employees, I have a great staff now, and outside of that,
Mr. Secretary, if I may.
Sure, you bet.
I want to offer to Dante, Food Systems for the Future is our nonprofit, and we have advisors who are grocery executives who want to help businesses like yours succeed. You and I are going to work together when we leave here today.
thank you.
Okay, that's one benefit of this panel discussion. But I want to give the panel an opportunity to speak directly to Ambassador Rice, who is in charge of the Domestic Policy Council for the Biden-Harris administration. Pretty important person. What piece of advice, what direction, what request, what plea do you want to make to Ambassador Rice and to the administration? And you can make it to me too, but
I would like to go first. So
good.
sorry.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Go for it.
For the work that what we do, it's not gonna, that we need help. Of course, there's some money. Like for us, a Hunger Task Force, we're working with a summer meal program. So summer meal programs only serve breakfast and lunch only 2 meals. We need supper. So for there, we have private sector who's coming, like in Milwaukee, we have called department store. They fund us ever since 2009, over $10 million we could serve all these underserved population, all the kids for supper for ever since 2009. So someone like that, in their community and then in where we live from, as a Hunger Task Force, we are free and local. Everything's still in there where we are from, and it's not going to be outside. So for someone like that, other business could help us to continue our work. things like that. And then also, not only court department, we have in like Harley-Davidson, and then Johnson Control, and then Milwaukee too, and then Blue Car Blue Sheet, and then we have Sargento. Of course, we are from the cheese states, we have to help by the cheese guy. So things like that. If we could have other people understanding that it's not our nonprofit. Of course, we don't make money out of it, but we are funded by other organization, the business. So we appreciate everyone. So thank you.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Who's next? Rachel?
I'll go next. First, want to appreciate the blueprint and the commitment and policy initiatives that are already underway. Further investment, promotion, and incentivization of healthy food and access to healthy food, I think, is critically important. And you have safety net programs like Medicare and Medicaid that can make such a huge difference. In addition to that, I think states and local municipalities have an important role to play as well in promoting policy solutions that incentivize access to healthy food. But really the reality is that government can't fix the solution on its own. It really requires every sector that is represented today on this illustrious panel if we're going to make the systemic changes that are necessary to get to the place that we all want to be, which is life without diet-related disease.
Dante, what would you say?
I don't know. I would say that I think that just making it possible for more people to be able to open businesses like my own, and I don't know how that is, but I know what change I made in that neighborhood, and being able to give out 30 jobs, being able to have a walking, accessible produce section, right? Fruits and vegetables, whereas it was only corner stores before, or Chinese stores, or whatever type of store before. Like that helps a lot. So.
Well, you're going to get information from Ambassador Cousins, which is going to make you incredibly successful, which is going to allow you to open a second store. And so we have a healthy food financing initiative at USDA, so you come to us when you want to open that second store, and we'll see if we can put you in business.
I agree, of course, with everything that's been said by everyone, but the organizing pulpit of the administration to lift up those who are working out there to make a difference makes a difference. We often call out the bad actors. Let's call out the good actors, the Dantes across our nation who are doing the things that are necessary to make food is health a reality.
How are we doing on time? Got time for out of time? Well, that's unfortunate. Well, listen, I want to thank you all for taking a few minutes of your busy schedules to share your stories with us, and I think we've learned a little bit. And Dante, I think I think you're going to get some serious help, and certainly take into consideration what we can do up there in the Milwaukee area. So thank you all very much. And I'm told that I'm supposed to turn it over to one of the great champions of all of these conversations. There's nobody in Congress who has been more forceful, more articulate, more passionate about hunger, nutrition, and making sure that every person in this country has access to healthy and affordable food than our good friend Jim McGovern. All right, I guess we...
Well, first of all, let me thank Secretary Vilsack for the generous introduction, and let me thank the panel, which was incredibly inspirational and gives me great hope. And I want to thank President Biden and Vice President Harris and their teams for challenging all of us, and more importantly, all of America, to end hunger and build healthy communities. Ambassador Rice and Secretary Vilsack and Secretary Becerra, thank you. Thank yous are not enough for all that you are doing to make this vision of a healthier, hunger-free America a reality. And I particularly want to thank Ambassador Rice because she has kind of gone beyond what I expected would happen when the White House held this conference on hunger, health, and nutrition. The follow-up has been extraordinary, and we are making progress. Secretary Vilsack just mentioned what he announced yesterday. To make sure everybody understands this, what he did yesterday will cover more children in school, will allow more children to get free healthy, nutritious meals in a school setting, and it will set the stage for more and more states to move in that direction so we can finally achieve universal, free breakfast and lunch for every child in this country. It is a big deal. And I want to recognize my friend Jose Andres, who you're going to hear from in a minute. He is unbelievable. And I also want to recognize my colleagues in Congress and all of those in the public and all those public and private stakeholders, especially those with lived experience who spoke at the conference in September, but who also are appearing here today. And we want to thank all those who are participating here today virtually. Look, when we first set out over a decade ago to push for a major national conference on hunger, frankly, we did not know what would come of it. And the reason why we wanted a national conference is because it's not one program. It's not one agency. It's not one sector. I mean, to solve this, it's everybody has to be at the table. And when we got President Biden to agree to do this conference, there was a part of me that was excited, and there was another part of me that was like, wow, now we have to deliver on this. It has to be more than a press conference. I mean, this is a conference that has to deliver results. But thanks to this administration, to the leadership of President Biden and the partnership and dedication of so many people in this room, this whole process has been extraordinary. And the fact that we are here today, building on the progress that we made during the national conference, making new commitments, is truly a testament to the Biden-Harris team. This is a big deal. This is real. You know, they know that hunger is a political condition. They know that, that we do not have a food shortage in this country. We have a shortage of political will, and we have a shortage of political courage. And because of that, for years, we have kind of ignored the problem of hunger, or we resigned ourselves to the fact that this is just going to continue. And while President Biden has shown the political will and courage to listen to those of us calling for change and to tackle this problem head on, you know, this is an important gathering here today. Hunger is finally the nationwide priority that it should be. And someday there are going to be a lot of Americans, some who haven't even been born yet, who aren't going to go hungry, thanks to the work that all of you are doing here today, who are going to be healthier, thanks to all of the work that you are doing. And that's a big deal. So let me leave you with one final thought: the power of big ideas. You know, we aren't going to solve hunger in this room. We may not solve hunger during this administration, although we will make great strides forward. But I certainly hope that we can all solve hunger in our lifetime. Big ideas like this are powerful because they change what we think is possible, especially when there is bipartisan support. And I just want to point out that my Republican co-chair of the House Hunger Caucus, Tracy Mann of Kansas, wanted to be here today but couldn't because of a scheduling conflict. But big ideas open up the space for us to imagine a different future, to dream of what can be. So when people tell me we can't end hunger, I tell them the last time we tried, the last time we had a White House conference to end hunger, over 50 years ago, that was the year we landed a man on the moon, and everybody said we couldn't do that. So don't tell me it's impossible. This is the United States of America, and anything is possible if we put our mind to it, even ending hunger. And I just want to close with this. I used to have a history teacher who used to end every class by saying the same thing. He used to say, remember, the world will not get better on its own. And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about when I took his class. I do now. I do now. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. You know, we can do this. You know, great things that have happened in this country have happened because good people have come together and demanded change. And that is what we are doing here today. So please know that I'm grateful to everybody here. Good luck. I look forward to working with all of you and being wind at your back in the Congress as we work to end hunger and improve nutrition across the country. And again, I cannot thank you enough. And Ambassador Rice, we love you. So thank you so much.
Well, Jose, it's great to be with you. Before I get on to Jose, though, I have to thank Jim McGovern. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Your partnership, your leadership has been extraordinary. I call you the OG of hunger, nutrition, and health because you really have been the driving force for so many years on these issues, and it's been just such a privilege to be able to partner with you, so thank you. The other thing I want to say, just because he won't say it himself, I want to tell you a little bit about Dante's store, because I visited Dante's store last fall with Secretary Fudge when we were in Philadelphia. And the reason I wanted Dante here is because what he has done is so extraordinary. You go into that grocery store, it is the brightest, nicest, most well laid out grocery store that I've been to anywhere. It's got extraordinarily high quality fresh produce and lots of it. And it's inexpensive. I walked past some chicken in the freezer, I almost fell out because for the price that he was selling that chicken, would have cost me 4 times as much at the grocery store I go to here in DC. I mean, it was incredible. So here you have accessible, high quality, beautifully laid out food that is healthy and affordable. And he's making money. And he didn't tell quite his whole story. He got into this as a budding entrepreneur, going back to his community. One of his colleagues, a young woman who's, Dante's age, you guys are like in your 20s, right? How old are you?
29, she's 27.
Yeah, come on. He's 29, she's 27. She's opening her own store in Philadelphia through the same chain. So there is a model here, I wish we had in DC, quite frankly. Not soon enough. Are you going to own it? Because I'll come work for you. It's really extraordinary. So, Jose Andres, the great. It is so wonderful to have you here. You have been just such an inspiration for all of us in pulling this conference together as we did last September. You were there all day, gave a great keynote address, and every day since you have been championing this work, as you do all over the world. And as I mentioned briefly at the outset, Jose, last year was announced, along with Elena Deladon, as the co-chairs of the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Health. And today, we are announcing the other members of the White House Council. We have athletes, we have healthcare officials, we have people who are experts in nutrition, all coming together under the leadership of Jose and Elena, and who unfortunately could not be with us today, but is deeply committed, as is Jose, to this great work. And I just wanted to start, Jose, by asking you to tell us why this council is so important to you, what you see as the opportunity to maximize its impact, and how you look forward to leading it.
Well, I know everybody has said that, but again, Ambassador Rice, thank you very much, because what you've done over the last year has been fantastic, obviously following the guidelines of President Biden and Vice President Harris. But thank you, because this administration recognizes that food is a fundamental right for every American. That food is not something should be missing in the tables of every American. And that we need to do more just to make sure that lack of food is just not a problem for us to solve, but actually an opportunity for us to seize, and making food the best agent of change we have to impact our communities, and more important, every single American. So for me to be on this council, obviously, is just be near people I admire and people I've been learning from. I'm saying I'm a guy that I'm always learning. I don't know if that feels like this to you, but many people always come to me with questions, thinking I have the answers. And I always answer back, you know where the answers are? The answers are in people like you, because you are making it. And that today I was able to meet some of you and know what you are doing now that in your community. What we need to be doing, what I hope in this council, following the guidelines of President Biden, is giving voice to people that they are already strong, but we need to bring up the volume. If he is being successful in this community, like many other organizations seem to be successful in their communities, we need to make sure that we bring the power of the federal government to give them more power. But understanding that the idea of bringing people from every single part of America, at different social levels, different religions, blacks and whites, people that they may be in sports, or people that may be humanitarians, or people that may be businessmen. It's just the realization that if we just keep throwing money at the problem, 100 years from now, we'll all we mean well. But if we keep throwing money at the same issues, and seems the old recipes are not working, when the old recipe doesn't work, what do, people? You write a new recipe. So what I love about this is that it is the moment to write new recipes with many ingredients within you that they are already happening. This is a great moment just to show that I don't love to say I'm the co-chair because Aisha Curry, that happens to have a husband that plays basketball, they say well. No, because they are who they are, because they are famous. It's because during the pandemic, Aisha and Stephen Curry, even if they are a known name, many people don't know that they were right there in Oakland, supporting organizations like World Central Kitchen, supporting restaurants, feeding the homeless, feeding the elderly, feeding people in need in the middle of a very dark hour for America. They are not in this council because they are a great couple that everybody loves and they are powerful, but they are powerful because their actions of boots on the ground speak for themselves. That's why I'm so happy that President Biden is taking on the challenge, moving the challenge forward, and many other things are happening. The White House Food Conference. This shows really that this administration cares about food. Like when President Biden running for president, he had a town hall about food. It shows that food is important, that food is at the heart of America. We're a country created by presidents that were farmers. It's about time that we put farming again at the highest up of what it means to be American. Farming is the goodness of the earth, to feed the souls of America, but also to feed America in the process.
Thank you, Jose. One thing you can always count on Jose for is to get everybody fired up. And that's why we save the best for last. But Jose, I'd love to hear your reflections on the panels that we heard today. We heard from some amazing people who are doing extraordinary work. And you've also had the opportunity over the last 6 months since the conference, to talk to many around the country. Tell me what inspires you, and what have you heard that gets you fired up?
Well, many of you know that I began in DC in '93, and one of the first things I did as a young cook that could share what I knew was with an organization called Share Our Strength. That's why I'm very happy that Bill Shore, who was the founder, is a new member of the President's Council. That was simple. The knowledge that we have, not to keep it for our own, but to share with others. Cooks like me that feed the few, we can also help feed the many. Every one of you has a talent that may help the few, but if you think about it, that same talent can help the many. For me, very early on, I joined DC Central Kitchen, not too far away from where we are. This amazing, crazy man, bartender, Robert Egger, had a dream. Why we waste food? But he had a better thought. When everybody was talking about food waste, he thought, actually, it's not wasting food. When we waste food, actually, you know what we waste? People's life. So he began saying, we are not going to waste one more life. And created a program, yes, to save food that was about to be wasted, but more important, to save people from being wasted, taking homeless out of the street, ex-convicts not able to find a job, bringing them to the kitchen, training them to be cooks. In the process, fighting food waste, giving opportunity to people. In the process, feeding the homeless population of DC. In the process, those men and women that made those meals learning a job, graduating, and then businesses in this city being able to hire well-prepared, trained individuals. Amazing 360-degree. This is Central Kitchen. 35 years later, just moved into a new kitchen. So we are. I'm the chairman emeritus. Mike Curtin is the guy running it. Those organizations like this Central Kitchen is not the only one. Washington, D.C. itself, because I can be talking about many parts in America, but you know I'm a Washingtonian with an accent. We have Martha's Table. We have some. Right here in D.C., why for me those organizations are very important? Because we need a smart policy. And those organizations are around the building and the places of power that create a smart policy. A smart policy equals a smart politics. That's why we all need to be always knocking on the door of every congressman and every senator that's of both parties saying, we need you to take food seriously. So it's organizations like this Central Kitchen, but more important, they're men and women that peeling potatoes next to ex-convicts or just helping somebody that was just a homeless. It's not like I'm there learning, teaching them. Actually, in a process, is those places where the breaches happen, where actually you are learning from them. Because in adversity, they were able to make it. And that's why every single thing we do going forward, the things that are easy to get for me and my family to put food on the table, people with less means should have always the same options. That's why it's the moment, as I said before, to think out of the box, to write new recipes, to make sure that if a young man like Dante is able to show us that we should be announcing in the next 6 years, and I'm speaking as Jose Andres, the person, that no community in America should be a food desert, no more. That we all together, we put the pressure in the right way, supporting the initiatives of this White House and knocking on the walls of Congress saying, if we have food deserts, it's because we don't have the political will, as Congressman McGovern said. But the will, you know what is? The will is in all of you. If we keep having food deserts, it's because we are not raising our voices and our actions high up enough. So this is, the many things are inspiring me. These are the people that keeps inspiring me. Everybody tells me where I go to emergencies, Susan. I don't go to help. I go to capture the energy. In the worst moments of humanity, the best of humanity shows up. Let's make sure that those dark moments, we all come together and give light to the people that need it the most, that give voice to the people that need to have a voice. And let's make sure that in the next years, one day we can claim that no American is hungry no more, so now we can go and feed the world.
Amen. Amen, yeah. All right, wow. Thank you, Jose. Thank you. And I want to thank everybody who's here today. I want to thank everybody who's been watching us online. I hope you have felt inspired and energized and motivated to take up the next stage of our challenge. We've got about 6 months. We're going to sprint with you all, but we want very much to encourage communities, leaders, nonprofits, businesses, philanthropies, all to do what they can in support of this challenge and the pillars of our strategy. Again, you can find them online, and we just want to harness the energy of this great country. Regardless of party, regardless of geography, this should be every American's passion and concern. We all know people who have, at one stage or another, suffered from disease that is preventable, that is diet-related, that has been hungry and not had what they need for themselves or their families or their communities. This is something that must and should unite us all. And so I want to leave you with that encouragement that you heard from Jose. Let's solve this problem in our own country, and then let's work to solve it for the world. Thank you all very, very much.